I like it. Some people might get removed when it starts recording, but it has started recording. Just jump back on. If it, obviously it didn't kick many people off. It doesn't look it anyway. Yeah, so I will call the meeting of the Weathersfield School Board to order at 6:04 p.m. and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Okay. I guess I need to talk so the flag stays up there, right?
Yeah, that's good. It looks good.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just for all.
Okay. Now that we have taken care of that patriotic duty, let us call for nominations for chair of the Weathersfield Board for the FY22 school year. Who would
David?
like to
I'd like to nominate Anne Marie Redmond.
Okay, I have a nomination for Anne Marie Redmond for chair of the board. It does not require a second. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of Anne Marie Redmond as chair of the Weathersfield School Board signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No. It looks unanimous. And again, we generally don't have the person who's been nominated vote. So that was 4-0 or 4-0, one abstention. So Anne Marie, congratulations or condolences. You are chair again for another year. Jackie, did you have a question before I turn it over to Anne?
Yes, actually, David, I inadvertently voted and I did not get sworn in today, so I apologize. I may not vote on anything this evening.
Okay. Who was our other elected official? Were there two or was Jackie the only one?
Mark, Jamie,
Mark.
and
Jamie.
Kristen.
I was sworn in today.
Mark gets sworn in. Jamie, have you been sworn in?
I was sworn in last week.
All right, good. All right.
And I was sworn in. I got sworn in today too.
Okay, so Jackie's here participating. So the vote on that nomination for chair will read 3-0-1, right? One abstention. And so Anne, I'll turn it over to you and you can take it from the vice chair down.
Okay. Do I have a nomination for vice chair? Actually, I'd like to make a nomination for vice chair. I'd like to nominate Mark Yingling. Or Youngling, as he says it, but that's wrong.
Yeah, he doesn't pronounce it right.
Anybody else want to? No. Okay, not hearing any other nominations. We'll take a vote for Mark Youngling for vice chairperson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 3 ayes. Are there any nays? And we have the 1 abstention for Jackie, so that's 3 ayes and 1 abstention.
Congratulations, Mark.
Nomination and election.
Is the abstention for the person that was nominated or Jackie?
Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
Mark's
They
the
put 3-0-1. So it should
3-0-1. Yeah.
be- okay, just checking.
Nomination for clerk of the board. I'd like to nominate Kristen.
Anne's on a roll.
Does anybody else have any nominations?
We haven't asked these people if they're willing to serve, but I guess we're just assuming they are. I didn't ask you either, so. Right.
So you are willing, right, Kristen? Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's 3 ayes. Any nays? And the abstention for Jackie. So that's 301.
301. Actually, the abstention.
David, do we also have another position of treasurer, or like I thought there was another position?
Hold on, there's supposed to be the signer of the manifest.
Signer of the
don't-
manifest.
I do that as
And
the
I-
clerk, or I have been in the past.
Yeah, you
Okay.
could, you could just appoint, Kristen, you've been doing it?
Yep.
Okay, that's good.
So should we vote for her to be appointed
Yeah,
that?
I would make it official, yeah.
Okay. All in favor of Kristen continuing on as signer of the manifest, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And Jackie abstention, so it's 301 for that as well. We also need to nominate and elect 3 representatives to the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board. I guess currently I'm on it, Mark is on it, and Kristen is on it. Does anybody not want to be on it that's on it, or anybody that's not on it want to be on it?
If somebody else wants to, I would give up my position.
You'd rather not, if you don't have to? Okay.
Yeah.
Would
Come
either
on
Jamie or Jackie like that position? Jamie would? Sure. Great. Okay. Well then I guess, do we just nominate all 3 at once, David, or do we do it
No, you do them
Individually.
all at once, yeah.
all at once? So does anybody want to, Kristen, you want to make that nomination? Since you're the
Yeah,
only
I'll
one not being nominated.
Yeah, I'll nominate Anne Marie Redmond, Jamie Turner, and Mark Youngling to the WSESU board as the Weathersfield reps.
And then David, who can vote on this? We don't have enough voters.
That's good. No, I think we can all vote on this one.
We can all vote on this one? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I
Aye.
Except Jackie, so it's 4-0.
Yep.
So who are those representatives again?
Myself, Mark Youngling, and Jamie Turner.
And I believe Kristen was unanimous in that vote.
Yes.
Do we have to have seconds for any of these like we normally do? Or not?
No, not for nominations.
Okay, good, great. I don't have to worry about that.
Okay, we need to nominate a representative to the SU bargaining council, and Jackie has been doing that, and I believe she's willing to continue. Does anyone have anyone else they'd like to nominate, or does somebody want to nominate Jackie? Or I can nominate.
I'll nominate Jackie.
Is anybody else interested, or it's good?
If she'll serve.
She doesn't get a vote, so.
I will continue to serve.
Thanks, Jackie. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And Jackie's abstaining, so that's 4-0. We need to designate a truant officer. Does somebody know who we do?
is that the police chief?
I think
David,
that's the
you
police
did.
chief, right? Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's-
The police chief.
Yes, it's Bill Daniels, the police chief.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to designate him as our truant officer?
I'll nominate him.
Okay, all in favor of keeping Chief Daniels as our truant officer, say aye.
Aye.
I
Anyone
David.
opposed? And Jackie's abstaining, so that's 4-0. Go ahead.
David, will you be sending a letter from your office so there's no confusion?
Well, you mean in terms of the truant officer?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually either that or I email, yeah, I can take care of that.
Okay. We need to designate official newspapers, and I have on here the Valley News and the Eagle Times. Is everyone okay with that? Or want to nominate anything else? Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to designate the Valley News and the Eagle Times as our official newspapers?
I'll make the motion to designate the newspapers.
Okay. All in favor of the Valley News and Eagle Times being our official newspapers, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And Jackie's abstaining, so that's 4-0. Establishment of a regular time, place, and date to meet monthly. Is everybody okay with the second Tuesday at 6 p.m.? Via Google Meet until weather gets better or situations improve.
Second Tuesday?
Yeah, is everybody okay with that on the board?
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry. Yeah, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And Jackie, if you have something to say about the time, you're welcome to.
It's all good here.
Okay. All right. So that's 4-0 to
6
keep our
p.m.
meeting as it has been scheduled. 6 p.m. second Tuesday of the month via Google Meet for now. I guess that's everything for the reorganization.
Yeah, I think you've got it.
Got everything. Okay. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
I don't have any. Gene? No, I think we're good.
Okay. There's approval of the minutes. Did everyone get the minutes for February 9th and February 17th?
Yep.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Can I make motions?
I would think so.
I motion that we accept the minutes from the February 9th and the February 17th, 2021 meetings.
Second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Any discussion on this?
This is Jamie. I don't know as if it's important, but on the February 9th, my name is spelled wrong every time it's mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Not a big deal to me, but I don't know if it is to
Yeah,
anybody else.
it's Becky, just so you know, it's Jaimie, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's right on,
It's
it's
what
correct
I
on
see
the,
on here, but that's what it says, so I will correct all that.
Yeah, we can do a find and replace on that, right?
Okay.
Thank you, Becky.
Well, it's not that hard.
thank
I'll
you.
correct it.
Great, thanks.
Plus, I will keep doing them wrong, so we don't want that to happen.
So is everybody okay then with the minutes with that change? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from February 9th and February 17th with the correction to Jamie's name, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And Jackie
4-0.
abstention, so 4-0 for that. Do we have any members of the public that want to, any public participation on items that are not on the agenda? You can do the raise hand thing and I'll call on you. All right. I'm not hearing any, so we'll move on to the principal's report. Jean Marie?
Well, I have a little friend here. You may recognize her. She must sit on my books. This is a thing we go through every time I'm trying to work. So I'll try to look at my notes, but she's pretty heavy. I don't know. So here we go. If I pick it up this way, she can't do it. So I wanted to mention that we have heard that we'll be getting ESSER money in the supervisory union, round 2. And I believe it's been reported as 1,047,000. So BJ and I have been very busy. Also, we asked faculty. We opened it up. We're having a meeting on March 17th and 19th. They're all-day meetings. The administrative team will be writing, it's called a recovery grant. Isn't that what it's called, David? Recovery? Yeah, I think it is. So we're going to write it. So I'm not going to be dishonest. We have come up with $250,000 of things that we believe Wethersfield School needs as a result of the pandemic. So I know we're going to be working as a team, but you know, in my mind's eye, we have Mount Ascutney School District, Heartland, and Wethersfield. You know, I'm thinking if we spent $300,000 each, that gives David the change. You know, so I don't know that David buys that, but we've done a nice job really asking teachers what it is they think would help them. This money is good through 2023. And it's really been a group effort, and the teachers have done a nice job. And I will be coming prepared to our meeting on the 17th with $250,000 of expenses. So we'll see how much Wethersfield gets in the end, but I thought it was important to let you know we're working on that. Sadly, the state has decided to have us take SBAC in reading and math, grades 3 through 8. And the science assessment called the SAT, and that will be given this spring in grades 5 and 8. You know, we just added another remote student today. So we added 12 in, I think it was January 25th. So, you know, I just feel like, what is that test going to measure? And how are they going to test the other remote kids that aren't in school? So it remains a mystery. I don't know that the data will be valuable, but we'll do what we can. We are bowing out of the NAEP this year, and I think that's important for us to do that. So I wanted to give you an update on that. We have no graduation date yet, but we're working on it. Since David speaks at all the graduations, we have to take turns, and we're meeting tomorrow to set that date up. I'm not really ready to tell you it's going to be an in-person graduation because I think we have to play this out. As you know, today they announced that I think it was the UK strand variant was found in Burlington. And they say this is much more potent. We need to wait and see. But I know people would love us to take a class trip. There's been some suggestions for 8th grade, but I think we have to be very cautious still. And I know our nurse is on, and she updated us today about what's happening with athletics and how they have found that even asymptomatic children have congestion around the heart. I don't know if they're called heart murmurs. What's the language on that, Emily? You told us today.
Myocardial.
Yeah. So I don't want us, we all feel good that we've had, and the majority of the teachers and staff in Wethersfield have had their first shots, and some have had their second. So we're feeling confident and excited, but we don't want to jump the gun. We really need to see what spring brings. We need to see what new developments there are in the health fields in the state. But as soon as I know a graduation date, Anne-Marie, typically you're a part of that, handing out diplomas. And last year we did it remotely, so Sean spoke to the students. And if we do it remotely, then we'd like you to speak. And we don't know. Windsor did a very fine thing by doing a drive-by where a car one at a time came up. They came out, they shook hands with, it would be Diana Day, who's the advisor, BJ and I, and pictures, and then got in the car. We do have a big class of 8th graders, so it would last several hours. But we don't want to prematurely make a decision. But as soon as we have a date and it gets a little bit closer to the end of April, I think we'll have more news for the board. So I wanted to share that. And I'm really proud of all that has happened this year, proud of the faculty, proud of the staff, the students, the parents. This has been a huge burden on parents. Many drive their children to school. We have an abbreviated day. They have to come back at 1:15, 1:30 to pick them up. Kids have really done well. They wear their masks. They follow social distancing. Teachers have been working hard. They're working on the integrated units. They're teaming with the specialists. It really has been a group effort. And I just want to go on record as saying, I think we'll all be glad when the pandemic comes to an end. But what it has shown the rest of us is the resiliency and the stick-with-itness and the energy that the Wethersfield School staff, parents, community have displayed during a very rough time. And that is one reason I love that school and proud to be a part of it. That's it.
I actually wanted to ask you, Jean Marie, how the students are doing, the remote learners that have joined you. How are they fitting in with the rest of the class?
Very well. They are doing extraordinarily well. And we had a new one today pop into 6th grade, which is my biggest class. And I went up to check on 6th grade and they were cooking. And she was too. She slid right in. She was a part of the group. I have not seen any. And I think we've got one more coming in March 15th. And he would be in 2nd grade. So we've taken quite a few back. That's 12, 13, 14. And from what I can see, they've come in, they're glad to be there. They're just mixing beautifully. They're able to fall into place, meet their friends, follow their teachers. So it's been a very positive experience.
Great, glad to hear. Next up, we have the superintendent's report. David?
Yeah, Jean covered some things that I was going to talk about, and I'll try to keep it quick. First of all, the vaccines. I mean, it's great that I think across the SU people have accessed those vaccines pretty well. We're trying to get to that 80-85% or better if we can, but people are really stepping up and doing it. We got the necessary educator codes on Monday that they needed to be able to register, and people are doing it. And I think Jean's caution is right, that even though we're vaccinated, we have to remember that we're traveling places maybe where people aren't vaccinated. Our kids aren't vaccinated yet. So it's just going to take a little bit of time, but I'll tell you, I think we're heading absolutely in the right direction. And we'll probably get some direction from the CDC and the AOE in the next month or so about end of year activities and what we can do and what we can't do. So we'll keep you posted on that. We are looking at, we put together a scheduling task force. Angie and I are heading that up. One of our principals, Christine Bourne, is helping us. She's at Heartland. Some of you know Christine. And we've got about 18 people on this scheduling task force for next year. What we want to try to do with this group, and it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I know that there are some things we've done this year because of COVID that have actually worked better for kids than previously. I think less transitions for kids, having groups of kids in pods with responsible adults around those kids, being able to have the right social and emotional supports in place. And again, as Jean said, we've got some money coming in to add to those supports. So I think that's good. And I think Jean will tell you, it hasn't been free of discipline problems, but the truth is the discipline has dropped tremendously. And I think I've mentioned that before, immensely. It's down across the SU at least 80%. And that would also include bullying and harassment complaints. I think, kids, feeling more secure in those pods really, really helps. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but we're going to try to capture the best of what we've got right now. A lot of the outdoor work we did in the fall and spring, getting kids outside, that really worked. And I think it showed that that works for kids, basically. So we'll keep you posted on that. I want to, certainly on behalf of the school board, thank the town of Wethersfield for supporting the budget. That was a huge task, and they stepped up. It was a hefty increase and tax rate, but it showed the level of support that Wethersfield has for their schools. So I think that is a tribute to the whole community. We have budget on the agenda tonight in anticipation that we might be discussing another budget that would have to go before the voters, but we don't have to do that. But what I will tell you is that Ed has done a little bit of work on your year-to-date budget and where you stand. He'd be willing to come next month and give more detail. But right now, between the revenues coming in and the expenditures going out, and some of those grant monies that were able to cover some of those ancillary expenses, like that were COVID related. Luckily, we didn't have to pay for those out of the local budget. Those were things like the LNAs, the perma substitutes that needed to be attached to the building, all of the PPE equipment, to the HVAC systems. We've already gotten a lot of money from the state to support those things. But you are running in the black. Ed showed me that there's about a positive balance of about $325,000. But Ed reminded me to remind everybody we still have 4 months to go. I wouldn't go crazy and try to spend that money now. I think, given what we went through this last budget season, it would be nice, first of all, to have some carryover that we could apply toward the FY23 budget. And also it would be nice if we absorb those grants that Jean was talking about before we start expending any surplus. I would let this ride out till the end of the year and just see where we stand at the end of the year. But right now the news is good news, given all of the supports that we've had to have in place. There's not much on the legislative front. Most of the things we talked about last time, the bills we talked about last time, they're going to be crossing over from the House to the Senate and the Senate to the House. I thought Elizabeth Burrows and John Bartholomew and John Arison have been doing a great job. They represent our SU, and they are really invested. Elizabeth Burrows sent out a pretty nice mid-session summary, which maybe I'll send that out at least to the board members so you can look at it, give you an idea of where a lot of those bills are right now. They wanted to get all the COVID money stuff out of the way first. I did want to talk about the summer, this summer, as part of our recovery plan that Jean was talking about. We are going to put together what we think will be a robust summer program. Katie Ahern has been working on organizing that, and I think that she's done a great job. We got a great response from faculty and staff to work this summer, and I think that's a tribute to them. I mean, obviously there'll be stipends involved and pay involved, but after an exhausting year, it's nice to know that there are several staff members who are willing to commit to a summer program and doing some of that recovery work. We want to be efficient with the recovery work, and we want to be sensitive to the fact that we may not be totally out of COVID jail by the summer. So we probably will centralize some of this summer program and provide transportation. So some of these kids will be targeted kids that we've identified that really need the support. And then if we have slots left at the end, we'll open it up to the general community. And there'll be some academic pieces in the morning, and then hopefully some recreational and social emotional pieces in the afternoon. Our plan is to have it be a full day program for those kids who want it. And remember, we can't make anybody come to this summer program, but we want to offer the opportunity to as many as possible. So Katie, I don't know, did you want to add anything to that, or do you think I covered it?
I think you pretty much covered it to nuts. I think the only thing you might have left out is we're centralizing it to one building in the district, and so that we'll be providing transportation from all of the towns.
Yeah.
So this is a joint effort. So all of the special education services that typically happen during the summer, the Title I services, and then anything else we come up with as part of our recovery plan to identify students will be a part of it. So that's part of that efficiency. But everything else, I think you've nailed it.
No, that's great. Thanks, Katie. And we will run the buses or some portion of the buses to make sure that any kid who wants to access, any child that wants to access the program can access the program. Right now, we'll probably kick off at what time in the morning, Katie? What was the plan?
The aim was to have students start at 8:30, go from 8:30 to 11:30 with students, serve lunch, and then have the second half of the day be the recreation program part.
Right.
So that's our tentative, give or take a few, whatever bus runs work minutes, but that's the tentative plan.
Right. And we've been, and part of the reason for centralizing it is not only for efficiency of service, but remember, we do have to deep clean these buildings, and Jim's got a plan so that if we can localize the summer school, because it's going to be about a 5-week operation, then we can get the other buildings clean, then go in toward the end of the summer and really clean. It's more than likely going to be in Windsor. I think that's our decision because it's central. Then we can go in and blast out that building at the end. We're asking our recreation departments in Heartland and St. Johnsbury, in Heartland and Windsor to partner with us so that and they're willing to take any of the students that are in the program will have access to those two programs as well. And again, we'll have much more information about this as we go along, but we want it to be a combination of academic recovery, intervention, keeping kids held harmless over the summer. Sometimes kids lose some ground over the summer, and also we want it to be recreational and fun. So there'll be a portion of that in the afternoon that, like I said, is going to feel much more camp-like and much more recreational than it does academic. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and then if there are questions, feel free. As you know, we've got our newly hired principal, Brian Martes, who's he reaches out almost weekly and just wants to kind of give me an update. He did send me, and I forwarded to the board, some videos of his trip to Vermont and to Wethersfield. And I think he closed out in Pennsylvania with his wife's family. And you can see just how much fun they all had here and how much he's looking for, and the kids are looking forward to being a part of our supervisory union and this Upper Valley community. I asked him about housing. He's still looking. He said, he wants to make sure that whatever they do is right, because he plans to make this a long-term commitment. So he's still working on that, but he thinks that'll be wrapped up by the end of this month, the beginning of next month. But what I wanted to say is I think we probably should plan a couple of meet and greets. I've been wondering when we should invite him to a board meeting, because that could be one meet and greet, right? We get a lot of people right now. We had 31 people at this board meeting, and we've had a history of getting good turnout. So I don't know whether we want to do that in April or May, and then maybe, one or two others that BJ and I know I'm volunteering your time, BJ, we could organize for parents and community, just open up, you know, a Google Meet for an hour and let Brian introduce himself. And I mean, it would be nice if we could do it in person, but I don't think we can do it in person right now. How does the board feel about that? Would you like BJ and I to work on that?
Yes, that sounds like a good idea, David.
Okay. And in terms of coming to a board meeting, should we wait? What's next month? Next month is April, right? Do you want to wait till May before we do that? I mean, I'm sure he's pretty open either way.
We can always put it out there. If he wants to come, he'll come. But
Yeah,
I think
maybe yeah.
Which one we want him at.
Yeah, I just think it might be good, Gene. I'm sure you would agree with this, right? For him to get a flavor of Vermont school boards and how school boards work in Vermont. I mean, my guess is in California and the size of his district, he's probably, I think they call them trustees in California. And I don't think he's probably ever been to a trustee meeting. Little does he know that that's going to be his life, you know, going forward, that, you know, we're all in this together, as the song says, right? So I think it would just be nice for him to get a flavor of that. So maybe Anne Marie, you and I can talk and we'll decide whether we want April or May, but I know he's willing to come anytime. And I know that Jean also, it's been crazy times, but I know she plans to dedicate a little bit of time to just giving him an orientation and letting him know the kinds of things he does. We're going to have the ceremonial turning over of the binders to Brian. So if you all want to be there, I don't know that he's ready for this yet, but he needs to. First of all, he needs to take a look at them and then realize that they are all organized and ready for his use. I don't think Jean is going to take any with her. Maybe she will. I don't know.
No, I'm not. And David, I already told him that the school will run itself that first year. And I showed him my notebooks. And then I showed him BJ. And then I said, you spend the first year building relationships, getting to know the teachers,
Exactly.
know the kids. And I think you will.
Exactly. So you did show him your binders, though.
Oh, he was impressed with all hundreds of them. He
I like
loved them.
And he still accepted the job. So that's good. I like that. Well, no, he cannot accuse you of not being organized. So,
Oh, I know. That's true.
so that'll be good for him.
I told him it's a well-oiled machine. Truly, I'm telling you, that school will run itself the
I know.
first year. He can just play that first year.
I know that'll be fun. It'll just be fun for him to get to know the staff, to get to know the kids, the families. Yeah, no, it's a great staff, and Jean's right. I'm not worried about that. That's it for me, unless there are any questions. We were going to talk about staff anxiety or just general, but I think that's on the agenda later on. So we'll hold off on that.
Okay, so if there aren't any questions for David, we'll move on to items for discussion. If everybody's okay. The first item for discussion, which we don't really need to discuss, but I did want to thank the voters of Wethersfield so much for supporting our school. I know it was a lot to ask. Over 10% for 2 years in a row is not easy for a lot of people, and I deeply appreciate it. So thank you, everybody. The next item is a COVID-19 update. You sort of been over that a bit, David, but if you have anything else to add on that.
Yeah, no, we have. The only thing I'll say is that we are waiting. We are waiting for complete guidance on those end of year activities. I will say that, the way we're organized and the commitment that the staff has had, not only at Wethersfield, but across the SU, to the restrictions and to doing what, they've been told to do and recommended to do. I think we've been really fortunate and blessed that we've had, really a handful of cases this year, and all of those cases have come from outside. But I think as we're hearing, in the media, and you hear, you certainly still get that political balance between, between those who want to stay aggressive and those who want to loosen up. But I think in Vermont, because we've done such a good job, we will be getting some guidance that starts to loosen things up. But I think we just have to be careful. And I think that that there's probably part, and I know this gets overused a lot, there's probably part of a new normal that we're going to have to get used to that will probably include some regular sanitization, some deep cleaning, maybe some mask wearing, maybe a little bit of distancing at certain times of the year. I just don't think we should think this is all going to go away. But I appreciate the way the staff has handled it. I think our state continues to be in front of it. And I just think you should all be proud of the work you've done.
Thank you, David. Does anyone else have anything to add to the COVID-19 update?
I see Angie's down below there. She's got her hand up.
Angie's got her hand up. Go ahead, Angie.
Hi, I apologize because I have the slides. I've been working on the slides from the wellness survey and my computer is not trustworthy. So I just thought I would talk to you about them if that's okay. The last
is this the update on COVID stress?
Yes. The last survey we did with staff was last Friday, March 5th. We received 80 responses, which is down about 40 or so from what we got the week before. Of those 80 responses, 40% reported moderate to high stress and 17.5% reported high stress. When I look over the reasons why the things that negatively impacted their stress, there were, a lot of it was the pandemic, and student behaviors were also things that were coming up for people. Keep in mind, this is about 25% of our staff. Of that 25% staff, of those 80 responses, 42% were classroom teachers, and with another 8%, 5% being unified arts teachers, and then another 10% special educators. So more than half of those responses were teachers. And so then when I look at the majority of people reporting moderate to high stress, which I'm reporting that because I think those are the results that you're interested in, how our staff are dealing with the stress. 60% of the responses reporting moderate to high stress are classroom teachers, and then another 25% of those are paraeducators, with the rest being made up with a small number of special educators, unified arts teachers, school nurse. And then for those reporting high stress levels, it was a much more broader representation of all areas. No administrators. I'm not sure any administrators participated this time. So it was interesting. It was interesting results because the previous week, and unfortunately, I cleared I cleared the survey, so it does its own little nice little graph, and so I'm not sure what I remember looking at it, and it was lower. It was about 44% were reporting 4 and 5 levels of stress. So I don't know if the second week after break people were feeling more stressed, if the news about the coming vaccine was either good news or not so good news, or just, like, oh, the end is in sight, maybe. Who knows? I can always theorize. We could all theorize a bazillion different reasons why, but last week apparently for this group of people was not an easy week. So
thank you, Angie. Does anyone else have anything to add to this discussion? I actually was just curious to know, like, how the teachers were feeling about the vaccines coming out. I mean, it's been so quick. Just seems like they announced it and all of a sudden they're getting vaccinated. Jean Marie?
I really have to thank Emily Stevens and our LNA Kylie and BJ Esty, because when they heard that we could start to make appointments, Emily went into action. She went to every bus driver, every kitchen staff, every support staff saying, do you want this vaccination? She made all the connections. I know I went to Rutland, and at least 5 or 6 teachers Friday went to Rutland and Bellows Falls. She has signed us up all over. There's a clinic Saturday in Springfield, and I can't tell you that just about everybody. We have a few who don't want to get the vaccine, but the majority of people do. And if it weren't for Kylie, BJ, and Emily, they'd be on a wait list. But our people are movers and shakers. They registered them, they called around, and I think everybody's thankful. I really feel like, I'm seeing the Facebook messages and the emails. I got my first shot, and people are excited. And I just really have to tip my hat to those 3 who made it happen for so many. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Jean Marie. So if there's nothing else on COVID or COVID stress, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. The next item is school choice options. And in the past couple of the days, the board has taken a look at the actual state statute that allows school districts to designate 1 to 3 high schools and negotiate rates with those schools. David, are you able to present exactly what that statute says?
Yeah, well, I can certainly talk about it. I didn't prepare a slide on that statute, but essentially it's Title 16, Section 827, if anybody wants some good bedtime reading. But essentially, that's exactly what it says. For any school, first of all, for any school district that does not operate its own high school, then you are responsible for high school tuition. And then there's a section in there, Section D, which talks about designation. And it's just another option to some degree, I think, put in there to be able to contain cost. I think that was part of the reason that designation clause is in there. And what the law says is that a district that does not operate a high school can designate up to 3 high schools and then negotiate a tuition rate with each of those high schools. And the sending district, which would be you, is held harmless to whatever you negotiate with the lowest tuition rate you negotiate. And then the receiving district would be held harmless. They could, because they've accepted designation, they could continue to charge what they're charging to all the other communities, but have this special rate between the designated town or the sending town and the designated high school. So, for example, the way this would work out in practice, if there was any interest in this, and by the way, the receiving town can accept designation by vote of the school board. The sending town can only designate by a vote of the public. So that means you'd have to have a warned article, and you'd have to have the public weigh in on whether or not you wanted to designate according to the board's proposal, whether that was 1, 2, or 3. So if you designated 1, that's pretty simple. If you designate 1, then you negotiate the rate with that 1. They accept designation. The town votes for that designation. And then all tuitions are capped at either the state rate, right, the state average tuition rate, or that negotiated rate, whichever is higher, right? So,
whichever's lower.
Yeah. So, well, in that case, though, no, in that case, it would be like, let's say, for example, you designated Springfield. and you negotiated a rate with them of $15,000 per student. And the state rate, was, well, if the state rate was under that, you're right, you would pay the lower. If the state rate was over that, then you in other words, you'd be capped at that 15,000, essentially, is the word. Private schools still get what's considered the average state tuition. If you were to designate 3 schools, let's say you designated Springfield, Windsor, and Woodstock, and all 3 of them accepted the designation, which they don't have to do. But if they all did, and they all negotiated a rate, and let's say, Windsor's rate was 15,000, Springfield's rate was 16,000, and Woodstock's rate was 17,000, you would only be obligated to pay. You'd have to pay to those designated schools, but if somebody wanted to go outside of that designation, you would only be liable for the lowest of your negotiated rates, which would be the 15,000. So if you had those 3 designated, a student wanted to go to Windsor, they'd pay 15,000. You'd pay 15,000. If a student wanted to go to Springfield, you'd pay the 16,000. If a student wanted to go to Woodstock, you'd pay the 17,000. If a student wanted to go to Hanover or Thetford or someplace else, you would only pay the 15,000, and the parent would pick up the difference between the 15 and whatever Thetford's tuition rate is. So that's how it works. And really, it's just a matter of the will of the Wethersfield community and of this board. We had a little bit of a panic year. Actually, the last 2 years we've had a little bit of a panic year because of what I would describe as people who move into the town who have high school students and they have not been part of our elementary community. I think BJ said that was somewhere between 12 and 16 kids this year. I don't know whether that's going to keep up. I don't know whether people are going to continue to come to Vermont, whether they're going to see Vermont as a safe place. Eventually, you'll run out of some housing in Vermont. You do get those bubble classes every now and then. You've got I think it's a 6th grade class coming up. That's a bubble class. And I think the town proved by somewhat of a narrow margin that they're willing to step up and approve a budget, even with those costs intact. But, I don't know, how long that will continue or whether it will continue. I think it's really for the board to discuss and for the community to weigh in. I know there are people here tonight that are here for that reason. So that's the way it works. And I think it's worth a healthy discussion. If not tonight, maybe we need a special board meeting where we talk about it, or maybe you just want to drop it. It's up to you.
I don't believe you discussed, David, the part of the statute that discusses how someone would go about choosing a school that is not one of the designated schools. Can you explain that process?
Yeah, they would. What would happen is they would have to come to the board, or I've seen some districts who authorize the superintendent to handle those requests, right? And they would have to articulate why another school was needed for their child outside that designation. Usually because the parents are picking up the difference. I've never seen a board, say no to that because it's not costing you any more than it is to send them someplace else or to your designated schools. But there is a process in law for how that happens.
I'm just going to give my opinion on this. Other people can raise their hands and give their opinions as well. In my opinion, if we go this route, we will be giving up school choice. Previous to this, I was under the impression that people would have free school choice. I feel like there's a big difference between having to go to a board and explain why you need a different school and asking for their permission, as opposed to the way it is now, where you can just choose and not have to explain to anybody why you're making that choice. Especially since boards change, the makeup of boards change. You know, who knows? I think, to me, it would be the town giving up school choice. And I think with 1 year of this happening to us with the tuition, I'm not sure that we need to panic. I mean, if it would to continue, I guess it would be something we would have to deal with. But my opinion is that this town likes school choice. A lot of people have moved here because of school choice. So that's my opinion. This is not the middle ground option that I and I think the other members of the board thought it could be. Does anyone else have anything they want to say? Mark?
David, is there another statute other than 827 that addresses this specifically? Just because there seems to be a lot inferred as far as the 3 different designations from what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing the specifics called out in 827. So is there another document that you could forward to us so that we can look that over and see if we can see any other options for it before we discuss this further in a public forum?
Yeah, essentially, I think I sent you, I think I sent Anne Marie the body of that, but I could send that to.
I've already forwarded it to the rest of the board.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. No, that would be the only place that that it's talked about. I mean, in other words, there's no place else in statute that would address school districts that don't maintain elementary schools or don't maintain high schools. It's all, well, it's basically 821 through, I'm just looking here, and maybe I had 822, 824, 825, 826, yeah, 827. Yeah, if you start in if you start at 821 and go right through 828, and I can send you all of that. I mean, it gives you everything you ever wanted to know about schools that don't operate either an elementary or a high school. And by elementary, they're talking K-8 or I mean, you don't have to worry about that. You're only interested in the high school section of that. I could send you the whole reference and you could look at it. I mean, I thought Anne just wanted the designation piece, but there's, I mean, there are other pieces in here that, that might be of interest. I don't think it's going to give you any added information about choices other than designation, because there really aren't any. I mean, you've got 3 choices. One is open school choice, right? And open school choice is what you've got now. You've got designation, which we just described. And then you've got merger with another district, right? I mean, that's what West Windsor and Windsor did. They merged, and that put all students under one high school. And then there's no tuition involved at all. I mean, you put your budget together as a district, and that's the way it goes. So those are the only 3 that I know about, Mark, that work for a school district that doesn't have a high school. But I'll forward you the whole section.
Thanks, because I'm only seeing 827 here. So.
Yeah, I'll send you the whole thing.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to this discussion? If you could do the raise your hand thing, because I'm only able to see like 4 people right now.
Yeah, I've got a good view of everybody, so or at least I think I do.
And Jean Marie, your hand's still up if you want to put it down. Unless you have something to say.
Yeah, I don't see anybody wanting to comment right now.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Susan. It looks like Susan Hindiger just put her hand up.
Oh yeah, Meredith Kelly is who I see, but if Susan got her hand up first, she can speak, and then Meredith.
Sorry, my hand was not up.
Okay. Meredith?
Hi, all. To the part about for families who decide not to go with the designated schools, if that is the route, is there a way the board could vote on that vote to create the acceptance process? So Anne-Marie, your concerns were the board changes, what that's going to look like for a family applying and proving why they need another school. Can the board put a blanket acceptance on those folks who want to pay the balance?
David? I didn't see anything about that in there, but do you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, what the board would have a right to do, obviously, would be to have a policy about that, right? But, you know, again, another board comes down the road and they can also, you know, change policy. I just want to make sure, I'm going to go to that section. Hold on a second. Because I want to make sure we're understanding that section correctly, right? So let's go to designation. You have it all there, right?
It's under C.
It's under C.
Yeah. It's a parent or legal guardian who is dissatisfied with the instruction provided at a designated school or who cannot obtain for his or her child the kind of course or instruction desired there, or whose child can be better accommodated at an approved independent or a public high school nearer to his or her home during the next academic year, may request on or before April 15th that the school board pay tuition to another approved independent or public high school selected by the parent or guardian.
Yeah, and that's where it goes into the rules around what you'd be obligated to pay, right?
Yeah, then D talks about the
D
pay the
talks
least
about,
of.
right, about how you would do that, right?
So yeah, the parents would be responsible for anything over probably whatever we would negotiate with Windsor.
Right.
That would probably be the lowest.
Right, right. Yeah, so you could come up with a process, Meredith, to answer your question, but it would only be a protocol and a process that's approved by, you know, by the board.
I'm going to read it, but that's very, that puts a burden of proof, a heavy burden of proof on the parents to prove other schools are inadequate, and we might not have that information. So I don't have any children headed that direction right now. I'm years away, but just thinking about folks who might be approaching that sooner rather than later, that's a heavy burden to prove.
Yeah, my guess is the reason that's in there, the reason C is in there, and then D in terms of how you accommodate for payment is more for the receiving school than the sending school, right? In other words, because what you're doing when you enter into a designated agreement with Windsor or Springfield or Woodstock or all three or two of those three, you're really saying that, you know, you're asking for a break in tuition, right? And what you're really saying is we're going to encourage all of our students in this community to go to one of those three schools or one of those two schools or this school. And we're going to ask parents to justify why they need to move outside that designation. And yeah, I think that's why it's there. Because you've got to, you would want to give the receiving school some motivation as to why they're going to negotiate a special rate with you, right? I mean, and the reason is because we're going to get, you know, we're going to try to keep our kids within this little cluster of high schools.
Are you finished, David? I see Susan has her hand up.
I
now.
am.
Susan?
Thank you. I was just going to echo what Meredith said, and that is that the statute, as I just heard it, was not families have the option to petition for choice for any reason at all, or whatever reason they deem necessary. It was for very specific reasons. This designated schools are inadequate in some way, or there's another school closer to the child's home that better meets their needs. Those are very specific reasons, and only a very probably small fraction of the reasons that families have for choosing different schools for their kids. And I agree with Meredith that it puts the burden on the family for justifying to other members of their town why a different school choice is better for their children or their family. And that's a huge, huge shift in approach for our town, and not one that I think we should take lightly. I also think that we should be careful about assuming that this that change of designation would be a huge money saver for us, given that so many of our non-close school options are not more expensive than the close ones. So, thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to the discussion? From what I saw online and at town meeting, the town seems to continue to support school choice. But I am interested in hearing anyone's opinion on the matter. And of course, we do need to find, we can't just keep asking for 10% tax increases year after year. So we would need to look into other ways to save money if we decide to stay with school choice. But I would ask that if anybody wants to discuss this further and feels like we should have a separate meeting on this, if they want to say so, because at this point, I'm not willing to do that, but if somebody else does.
Anne Marie, the other thing I'll say, because you brought this up to me today or yesterday, I forget, the days seem to run together, but how do high schools calculate their tuition, and how do they get that approved? Because we have to have those tuition rates approved by the state of Vermont, right? And I think either at town meeting or at another board meeting, I told you that the K-12 or the pre-K-12 per equalized pupil cost, or the cost per equalized pupil in Windsor, is about $15,700. Okay, but our tuition, I think, is close to 18,000. I'm not sure. So
it's a bit over 18,000. It's 18.
Maybe a bit over 18,000. So Anne said, "How is that calculated?" And here's how that. And I'm not going to get into all the detail of formulas, but what happened, and we all went through this a little bit with our own equalized pupil in Wethersfield, right? That the equalized pupil is not the actual number of pupils, and the cost of operating a high school is not your pre-K-12 cost across the district, right? So what Ed has to do to get the tuition calculated is he has to do just the cost of running the high school, which is 9 through 12, and then he divides that, by the number of students, not the equalized pupil, but the number of students, and comes up with a per pupil cost. And that's what Woodstock does. That's what Springfield does, and that's always going to be a little bit more than. Matter of fact, I've even seen districts that actually have a tuition rate for K-6, they have a tuition rate for middle school, and they have a tuition rate for high school. The way Ed has done it in the past, and the state has never argued with it, is once he gets that high school tuition figured out, he charges that for anybody, elementary, middle, or high school. And I guess you can do that. So, but that's why there's that differential of a few thousand, couple of $2,000 to $3,000 between the equalized pupil rate and the actual cost of educating a high school student.
Thank you, David, for explaining that. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? I definitely think that yes.
I think Susan put her hand back up.
Oh, and I did too.
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, David.
I was trying to type, and I I want you to move on, but I was trying to type and I can't type that fast. But to be clear, I would support, if the board is considering removing high school choice, I would rather support the designation route versus getting rid of it altogether, and maybe help parents with a policy of some sort with that process of if someone's going elsewhere, how that's going to look. That would be where I would land, just for 2 cents.
Thank you, Meredith.
Most of us are there too.
Yeah. And Anne Marie, I would agree with you. I think, we should wait another year anyhow and see if this migration to Vermont is going to be something that continues. And then it might be time to have the community dialogue. And we'll know that next fall, because next fall we'll be able to look at those high school tuition bills. And if BJ spots another 7 kids or 8 kids that she doesn't recognize, then, maybe we've got trouble right here in River City, and we got to go back and look at that again. But I wouldn't let 1 year panic us right now. And the towns seem to step up and vote yes. And right now you've got, I don't know, again, Jean, but it's nice to have that choice. And you've got, I think next year, most of your kids are coming to Windsor. Do you know, Jean, off the top of your head, what that looks like?
Currently I've got 17 kids in Woodstock. I've got, I want to say 40 something in Windsor. And then Springfield is a little bit less than Woodstock. So right now, the number 1 schools are Windsor, Woodstock, Springfield.
And how about this year's 8th grade? Do you know off the top of your head how many are going where?
Well, we did actually, BJ, is BJ still on? We did do that count when we were doing budget prep. So you've got some numbers, BJ.
We're going to Windsor.
Say that again.
The Windsor, and then Woodstock, and then a few to Springfield.
Okay.
It's really Windsor and Woodstock. And we do kind of have those numbers. We asked the kids when we were putting the budgets together, because Woodstock charges a lot more than Windsor and Springfield. So it would behoove us to know what that looked like. Woodstock has suddenly become popular. In my 11-year tenure, when I first came here, Springfield was number 1, Windsor was number 2, and there was 1 year, David, we had 21 schools that our 9 through 12 attended. It was amazing. And then we dropped to 17, and now you saw it in the town report, I think there might be 11 schools, but the majority go to Windsor and Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jean Marie. Yeah, I definitely don't want to stop looking for ways that we can save money, because I don't want another budget to have to pass based on cutting things from K through 8. I'm thinking one thing that maybe we could do, just sort of throwing ideas out there, and if anybody else has any ideas and they want to come to me with it or to the board with it, not necessarily at the meeting right now, but separate from this, would be maybe we should be encouraging more of our high schoolers to choose private schools. I understand that Vermont Academy currently is accepting the Vermont students that get accepted. They're taking just the state rate. So their families would not have to contribute anything else. I don't know if there are any other schools that are like that, but I think we should be encouraging our kids to take a look at that, because it's a great school.
Yeah.
And not all that far from here. Maybe if you got a few families together to carpool or whatever. But I think it's something we should look into encouraging our kids to at least think about, because it is one of the cheapest ways to go.
You've got several of them. You've got the Compass School, you've got the Vermont Academy, you've got KUA, you've got the Sharon Academy. You've got a fair number of privates, and if you choose a private school, then you are capped at the state rate. The school can't get any more than that.
And I would imagine most families in Weathersfield, even if schools are charging more than the state rate, would probably qualify for some sort of financial aid as well.
Yeah, tuition possibly.
Yeah.
It's really, it's getting.
I have a couple of hands up. I have Mavis.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Mavis Ellingwood here. I want to contribute to this particular conversation. I think many of you know I've been a lifelong resident here at Weathersfield. And as you're talking, some points that are coming up for me is you're talking how Windsor is the most popular school choice at this moment. Back when I graduated from Weathersfield, we had a class of 50 Weathersfield 8th graders. And the majority, I know, amazing, isn't it, Jean Marie? And the majority of students went to Springfield. I don't think we had anybody go to Windsor. There were a few that went to Woodstock. We had a few that actually went to Stevens, ironically enough. My concern is that if we pigeonhole ourselves to a few choices in 10 or 15 years, because I graduated in 84, things change, the communities change, the economics change. It's just, you never know what's going to happen. And one of the best things about Weathersfield when it comes to the school is school choice, because we have an opportunity to give choice to our children for the best possible education above and beyond Weathersfield. We start great at Weathersfield. We want to continue that momentum. So as we move forward and try and make a choice to try and save the town money, which I'm all for, but we want to keep all students in mind. And my other point too is that you also have families here in Weathersfield. In fact, my neighbors down the road, their students go to a private school currently for their grade school children. And so they're paying taxes, but their children aren't attending Weathersfield. They love Weathersfield, but they're not attending the Weathersfield school. And, they're still believe in the school choice. They still believe in Weathersfield. They really like Weathersfield, the school district. They actually have had their children participate in the athletics. So, we have a really great diverse, I shouldn't say diverse, but we have a variety of people within Weathersfield that we want to make sure that we consider. So I'm all for school choice, if you couldn't tell.
Thank you, Mavis. Katie Ahern has her hand up.
I just wanted to briefly mention one of the hidden costs that you don't see, because it goes directly to the SU special education budget, is for any of our school choice students who receive any level of special education services. We get charged for those, and there's no regulation on what a school can charge. It's called excess cost. And so we have, to give you a ballpark, we can have a student that has receives very basic services, maybe reading instruction a couple times a week or something along those lines, that can range anywhere from an extra $8,000 a year up to another $24,000 a year, more than what actual tuition is. So there's something that, we could break it out and say, here's what Weathersfield has been for X amount of years. I'm sure if somewhere there's a spreadsheet that exists that has that, but it was very surprising to me this year, the range and the cost, because that's where some of the schools make up for tuition, both private and public. This is any of the schools that receive our students, we are obligated to also pay for any level of special education. So I figured that was a good plug to put that in here.
Thanks, Katie. Mark, you have your hand up?
My question was really for Katie on that. Do we have any footing as far as negotiating any of those rates, or is it all just, here it is, you accept services, you pay whatever you're billed? Do we have any resources to negotiate with any of that?
No. One of the things we have tried to do is, if there's anything that a school would have to contract out for, like to do their psychological or maybe a speech language pathologist that a kiddo needs, I have been this year saying we'll do our own evals, so you don't have to charge us that excess cost, or we'll send an SLP. It's geographically, sometimes that's physically impossible, just especially for services, so at least a little bit. We haven't had much traction, my predecessors and others being able to negotiate those costs, and they are widely variable. So yes, I would hope someday we have, the state knows, could we have a little bit more regulation around this? Could there be a norm or a range? But to date, nothing. Good question.
So that's really something that has to change on the state level, or with,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something we all need to bother our representatives about.
Yeah, no, and to that point, Mark, that's a good point. This is David again. The other piece that I've never understood, I think the state, and I don't want to be glib, and I respect our legislators, but I think the state could straighten this out by just saying that any school that wants to participate in school choice will have to accept the state rate. End of story. And if you don't want to accept the state rate, then you're not going to play in our pond. I just have always thought that that's another solution to this. And I've mentioned it to legislators. We could continue to mention it. We could reach out to John and Elizabeth and John and see, to Katie's point with special ed costs, the other thing that, the only caveat to those costs, because you already pay a hefty supervisory union assessment, and by the way, all those costs are rolled in to that assessment. So you don't pay any excess costs when a student goes to Windsor, but you are technically paying those costs because it's part of your SU, it's part of your SU assessment. But so is the charge from Woodstock, or the charge from Springfield, or the charge from Thetford. And I agree with Katie, some of those are getting pretty exorbitant, and somebody's got to figure out a way to cap those.
And they're not for, I want to be really clear, they're not for exorbitant services.
No.
It is what I would consider sort of your average run-of-the-mill, everyday support.
Case management.
It's case management, and it really is basic, probably the closest I can get to. So yeah, it was sticker shock when I first saw it.
Okay. Does anyone have anything further to say on this matter? And like I said, anyone in the public or on the board or whoever wants to contact me or the board about any concerns regarding school choice, feel free to. But as of now, I'm going to sort of drop that and look at other ways to save money. At least from my
It may come back again.
Sorry, I see your hands back up. Mark?
No, I think Katie and Mark just forgot to put their hand down.
Put your hands down.
Put those hands down.
All right, thank you. And we have up next is items for action, but I don't think we actually have any.
We don't have any.
Yeah.
We're
And next
really
after
setting the
that
next agenda.
is, setting the next agenda. So we want to have the budget on there again, and Ed's going to give us a.
Yeah, I would put it on as financials, so he can give you
Okay.
a
So
more
financials.
detailed report. That would be good.
I guess we'll still be having another COVID-19 update and an
Yeah.
update on COVID stress.
I'd put down end of year activities, because I think by then, like Jean said, she might have more information about graduation and those sorts of things.
Do we also want to maybe talk about spring sports? Want to have an athletics
Yeah,
update?
that's probably a good idea. We'll be getting some guidance on that.
And I guess I don't know if Jean Marie wants to just do it in with her principal's report, or if we want to have a separate thing about sort of what the district is going to be doing with the I'm not sure what it's called. It was called the CARES money, but now it's something else.
Well, we might. We're going to be I think March 20th, David, is the date that we have to submit the names of the teams. And then there's an April date that we actually have to submit the recovery plan. So it depends. I think is the second Tuesday, April 9th. I think it is. So I'm not sure we'll be done by then, but we can give you an update. So just write, it's ESSER, ESSER monies. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just call it the recovery plan. We'll report on the recovery plan. Either way is fine. I think that'll be a pretty robust agenda at this point.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does anyone have anything else they want to add to it? Otherwise, up next would be executive session, and I would actually like to have just a brief executive executive session with the members of the board and David. Jean Marie, if she wants to come along, but it's mostly to talk to David about something.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So we need a motion to move into executive session, right?
Yeah. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
All motion.
I'll second.
Kristen
Thanks,
seconded.
Jack. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Becky, I'll get you the, what time we come out and who moved to adjourn and all that stuff. I don't think there'll be any action.
Okay.
Thanks.
Make sure
Thanks,
you stop recording, David.
I will. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Angie.
Congratulations. Congratulations.